So, I put a lot online, put a lot of political opinion, and really just logic, man. Let's just get down to logic. Let's not even worry about ethics. Let's get to logic and get over this idea that we can chat up rationale or just a dilution of reality and ignore logic. So brings me to my next lecture here. So, child rearing. I was watching a PragerU video. Oh, wow. The whole point of that video was, because I said so, authoritarian, which is fine, right? Okay, and the kid must be looking up at you like, in my experience in life, that's like saying a kid must fear you, as in what, he fears the Lord. What kind of fear is that? Well, it's the fear of disobedience. Why? Because you love the Lord. In ethics, this doesn't really even make sense. And this is where PragerU was coming from, really. That is that kind of thug. It's or predabascent theory that the man should be this stoic figure, and he should just sort of, man up on everything. I'm gonna cowboy up on every freaking situation in life. It's a simpleton mentality. It's mental laziness. That's what it is. This idea that everything in life can be just narrowed down to something simple, where you don't have graduations, you don't have multiple processes that you could go through to get to the best way to rear a child. Rear, that's interesting. It's an old term. It may sound kind of weird, but it goes back to this idea of rear command. It's an admiral to the rear of the company. I think. I don't think it has anything to do with spanking a child. I don't think that's where the terms came from. But anyhow, so this idea that parent says, just screams because I said so, is going to work, and then the child just kind of shrinks back in fear. Okay, well, my point is that sets up a child to say, you don't need to think. What needs to happen here is you need to just obey. Okay, so if you do that, because I said so, if you just insert that where you should be explaining things using logic, you don't even have to get into reasonings, really. Higher reasonings, we call it, because reasonings are pretty far up on the rung. So, this idea is setting up a child to obey without question, and then he does the same thing with his children, and their children, and their children. What you could have, and it really is a civilization that never progresses. It never rewrites itself. It never reschemes itself for a better view on life, because it's all about obedience. There's no There's no ownership in that. There's no, the focus is machismo, this sort of physicality of life. There's plenty of people that work hard, but the ones that work smarter, you know, the ones that use their brain, I'll be nice, use their brain in conjunction with whatever physical work they're doing. Whether they find a better lawnmower, to mow lawns, it's twice as fast. One guy pushes a mower, and half the day in, he's tired. Another guy has a self-propelled mower because he thought about it, right? That's like putting a new scheme on things, finding a new strategy, a new process that makes this person more money than the other person because he used brain and brawn, right? So there's this idea that we can't skip out on the mental and just go right to the physical at all times. The physicality of life. There's plenty of it, right? But the person that is studious and becomes actually can become smarter than the average bear through study and through application of critical thinking, higher thinking, using rudimentary thought processes, all that good stuff. That is what needs to be instilled into children. That's why my lectures start at the logic level. Just logic. At a very early age, this and that, these or those, then go into hypothesis. If this and that, then these and those are true. Yeah, that's a hypothesis, right? So you get into postulates, would, could, should. When you start adding in questions, you start adding in all the clave, I say, all the logical operators. I have that all outlined, right? So, when a child learns all these things and learns to think things through, it's not going to be like they're going to be seeing these words in their mind. The brain already does this naturally. This is how babies learn. And through reflexive modeling and neuroplasticities and things like that. And that is true, but this idea that you could teach your children to use subconsciously click logic just like that, just as fast as you can blink, really, sets them up to where the first thing they're going to do is they're going to obey the logic that they're naturally thinking, right? So they're going to have a very precise reckoning of reality born from all that training that you put into them, right? Okay. This takes mental effort. This is different from physical effort. It's different than because I said so. That's authoritarian. That's physicality. Where you first need to express a mentality of reasoning, right? So, what I suggest, I've seen old timers, they actually have a list. They write out the rules. Back in the day, they actually did that, right? And then even explanations, very simple sentences, this is a reason, this is a reason, this is a reason. And then maybe tie them all together into one factoid. Right? See? And then you post it conspicuously. That's a dictation of terms. You know, the idea of actually journaling, I get back to that, and writing things down and going back and seeing what works over time, and then passing that through intergenerationally through your children. Maybe they could even receive the book, a physical book with everything you've written in it, right? Or maybe it could be a video log, you know. I'd be careful about hard drives, though. You know, maybe a memory stick, something like that. Right, so here's the idea. We're setting up children for success instead of the caveman ethic of barbarism. All right, the children are getting conditioned to being reasonable, you know, and being whipping smart, rather than there's this natural inclination for children to rebel and actually do insane things because they're children, their brains aren't fully formed. They're going to do things that are completely irrational anyhow. So, I mean, mental conditioning combats all of this, you know. You know, maybe they come back to the point, you know, kids are going to go off the track, but then they're going to stop, they're going to think about it. They can also be trained to stop and think. Hey, did you just stop and think? Well, you should. You should just stop, take a deep breath, stop, think. You know. Anyways, you know, I don't see any way that this can't be true in life. Because I said so comes, you know, it can come early in childhood. That is true. You know, a little child, you know, understands no, right? But because I said so, that's almost flippant. You know, that's almost like telling your child an interrogative. Because I said so, like so as in sow this into your mind, or so it may be, or so I said. Oh, that just goes so many places. Right, I think that, you know, typically that's just not correct ever. But it could be. And it could be understood. You know, it depends if you condition a child. At that point, you know, their young minds can be conditioned to recognizing that that is the end of the discussion. Well, that is true. But you could say end of discussion. End. The end. The end? What do you mean the end? Well, no, that is not up for discussion, right? The end. Or how about no? How about yes? How about, like, true and false? You know, those are just basic things that we learn in critical thinking. I mean, that's not even... they don't even teach that critical thinking because they just skip over it. You know, most of the time, skip over basic logic operators. Right. So we just come back over and over and over to these same points here. Right. Getting children to think. So it's really a combination of yes or no, true or false, and then an ultimatum, or before that, the end, or because I said so. And, but if that's not happening along with simple explanations, you know, I don't know what to say, because that's just not going to go anywhere. That's setting up defiance during the teen years, actually. You know, my mother said that, my grandmother said that too. Women are pretty good about that. So, this idea if a child goes through life knowing the clear set reasonings for things, it's going to carry on into teenage years, into adulthood. And there's no doubt about that. But anyhow, thank you.